If you are not legally protected in your business, you are leaving money on the table. Hey, I get it. The legal side of business can feel intimidating, but the good news is it doesn't have to be. If you want to build your business on a strong foundation, and if you want to know that your rights are protected when the unexpected happens with a client or a customer, then it's time to get legally protected. This means no more using free contracts that you downloaded off of the internet. This means partnering with a law firm that actually believes in your vision and can help you achieve it. This means legally protecting your brand so that no one can steal your good ideas. There are a lot of ways to grow and scale, but if you want to grow a strong business, it's time to get legally protected. If you're listening and resonating with this, then my signature service, the Legal Upgrade, just might be perfect for you. The Legal Upgrade is a straightforward, structured process to give your business the legal protection that it needs to thrive. Click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me today. Hello and welcome to the Legal Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, licensed attorney Christian Hammond. This podcast breaks down the legal side of business to reveal key legal strategies that can help you take your business to the next level. Please note that none of the following is legal, tax, investment, financial, or medical advice. Without further ado, let's get into the show. What does it look like to monetize your trademarks at every stage of business? What does it mean for you as the CEO to make sure that your intellectual property is working for you, working for your business, that it is something you can put to work to create new revenue streams, new verticals, new ways of creating wealth in your business? I think this is such an important topic because I have found that even very experienced CEOs, even CEOs who have been in business for years, who have very successful companies, often don't have a good understanding of what intellectual property is, what it can do for them, and how they can really put it to work for their business. And this means that oftentimes business owners unknowingly are leaving money on the table. And we do not want you leaving money on the table. So this is going to be a really great live stream for you. If you are a business owner, if you are a CEO, if you are a founder, and you want to increase your knowledge of intellectual property, you want to have a better understanding of what is IP. What does it mean for my business? How do I use it at every stage of my business? Whether I am growing, whether I am scaling, whether I am an established company at this point, what does it mean? What does it look like? So if you are a business owner and you want to increase your knowledge of intellectual property, this live stream is for you. And today we're going to start basic, and then we're going to get much more advanced. No business owner left behind. So we're going to start with the basics, and then we're going to build up, just kind of visiting each stage of a business life cycle and talking about what would it look like to monetize intellectual property and specifically trademarks at each of those stages. So this would be a really good time to go get a notebook, open the notes tab on your phone, wherever you like to take notes. This is going to be some really useful information. So let's get into it. Again, we're going to start with the basics. So what is intellectual property? And I think the easiest way to understand it is to understand it in contrast to the physical property that your business owns. So your business, maybe you own an office. Maybe you've got some desks, some computers. Maybe you have a whole office building if you're a much more established company. If you're a solopreneur, at bare minimum, you probably have your laptop. You have a notebook, some pens, some pencils. These are all examples of physical property that your business owns. So in contrast, intellectual property can't necessarily be felt, touched, seen, or smelled, but it is the property that is often much more valuable than your physical property because it's what you're selling. It's your ideas. It's the thing that makes your business unique. It's all the things you have created with your mind. And intellectual property breaks down into 4 categories. The first category is patents. So the 4 categories are patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. Patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. What are these things? Patents are inventions. So it's Edison inventing the light bulb. It's Elon Musk coming up with a better way to build an electric car battery. All these different things. It could be sometimes better chemical formulas for certain products. So it's an invention. Typically, the type of invention that requires you to know some math, know some science, or know somebody who does in order to create it, right? So patents are for inventions. Trademarks are for brands. So it's the business name, business logo, business slogan. This isn't super common anymore, but business jingle, if you have one. It can be special packaging. It can even be the layout of your store or the layout of your restaurant. Another example could be uniforms, if you've had special uniforms designed for your employees. So all of these things are things that can indicate a brand. They are things that are intended for when people see them, they know, oh, this is connected to that brand. So all things branding is going to be trademarks. Next, we have copyrights. Copyrights are pretty much original work. It's anything that can be written. It could be as long as a book or a textbook. It could be as short as a blog post or a tweet. All of that is covered by copyright. So anything that can be written. It's also anything that can be recorded. So it could be something like a song, but it could also be something like a podcast. Anything that can be recorded. It's also pretty much anything that can be captured, like photography or a video. It's anything that could be sculpted, painted, drawn, or designed. All of these things are copyright. So it could be as pragmatic as a pitch deck built in PowerPoint. It could be as creative as abstract modern art. But all of these things are copyright. And then the last one, number 4, is trade secret. And trade secret is the one of these things is not like the other category because it's different from the other 3. The other 3, patents, trademarks, copyrights, these are things that can be registered with the federal government. Your name ends up in the federal database and everybody knows that you own that patent, that trademark, that copyright. They're meant to be registered. It's meant to be public. It's meant for everybody to know that you own it. Trade secrets are different. By their definition and by their nature, they're meant to be a secret. They're meant to not leave the 4 corners of your business. They're meant for not anyone outside of your business to know what they are. Sometimes they're so secret that not even all of your employees know what it is. So trade secrets are meant to be as private as possible. This could be a secret recipe. Maybe you own a bakery and you have figured out the best apple pie recipe that there is. That's an example of a trade secret. It could be a special proprietary process, method, some kind of know-how. It could be your client list. All of these private proprietary things are examples of trade secrets. And by their definition, they are meant to be secret. So they're different from the other 3. So that is the rundown of the 4 main types of intellectual property: patents, trade secrets, copyrights, and trademarks. But what I want you to take away from this and what I want you to understand is the intellectual property is property. Intellectual property is property. And so even though you can't touch it, feel it, smell it, see it necessarily, it's a type of property. And I think that's so crucial for business owners to understand. Because if you had property, if you had a plot of land, you would understand what to do with that. You can buy it, you can sell it, you can develop it, you can lease it. We understand what to do with physical property. We know what to do with that. We know more or less how to monetize that. Well, intellectual property is property. So the same rules apply. You can buy it, you can sell it, you can rent it out. That's called licensing. You can develop it. All of the same rules apply with intellectual property as it does to physical property. And I think that's such a crucial difference to understand for business owners, CEOs, and founders. Because if your understanding of IP is just, oh, this is something I need to protect so other people don't use it, yes, but that is thinking too small because you haven't taken that next step to realize, okay, and this is also an asset. I want my asset to appreciate. This is something I'm investing in. This is something that can create more wealth for me. And so I think when we make that shift and we take intellectual property out of this kind of intangible, ambiguous thing, and we understand this is a piece of property that can be bought, sold, developed, or rented, now we start to understand what it looks like to monetize it at each stage of business. And that is the next part that we're going to jump into. So now that we know what intellectual property is, now that we understand the different categories, we're going to talk about what does it look like to monetize that intellectual property at each stage of business. And specifically, we're going to focus on trademarks today, although many of these concepts could also apply to other types of IP. So let's take the first stage of business. What does it look like to monetize intellectual property at the first stage of business? And I don't mean, when I say the first stage of business, I don't mean launch, like the business just started. I'm kind of talking about the whole first era, if you will, of your business. So this is for the person who's in the place where you own a business. You're selling whatever products you're selling. You're offering whatever services you are offering. At this stage, the best way to monetize the trademarks is to protect them. That's to get trademarked, which would be to register them, and to make sure that no one else can use them. Because you want to be able to sell the products you're selling, you want to be able to offer the service you're offering, and you don't want other people copying that. You don't want other people free riding. You don't want other people stealing your clients. You don't want people to be able to cause confusion and confuse your customers, confuse your clients, pretend to be you. So the best way to monetize your trademarks in this very first, stage or phase of business is to get those trademarks protected, to lock them down. And what that looks like, at least here in the United States, is getting those trademarks registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. When that happens, that results in protection in all 50 states and also in the US territories. And you get two very important things. You get a registration certificate and you get a federal registration number. Two very important things. That registration certificate, that's your proof of ownership. That's the proof that you own that trademark, that you have an exclusive right to use that business name, that logo, that slogan, and that nobody else can use it for those same products and services that you are offering. So that registration certificate is super important. That is your proof of ownership. The second thing you get is a federal registration number. And that federal registration number, I like to say, is your magic ticket. It's your magic ticket to a lot of free ways to enforce a trademark. Why? Because so much copying these days happens online. It happens on the internet. Someone has an Instagram account and they're pretending to be your business. Someone has set up a website with the same name as your business. A lot of copying and infringement these days happens online. Well, the good news is, if you have trademarked, that most online platforms have free trademark complaint procedures if you have a federal registration number. So that's why I like to call that federal registration number the magic ticket. It's your magic ticket to have a free way to enforce your trademark, to go after copycats, to get copycat websites, social media accounts, storefronts like Amazon or Etsy, things like that. It's a free way to submit those complaints and get those kinds of things shut down. So in that first stage of business where, you've got a business, things are going well, you're just selling your products, you're offering your services, the first best way to monetize is to get protected so that all of that effort is not going into somebody else's pocket, so that your clients and your customers aren't being confused, so that you're not having issues with copycats and people kind of freeloading. So that's the first stage of business. Now, as things start to progress, we reach the second stage. And the second stage is when you start to question your business model or you start to rethink your business model. And there may be many different reasons why you start to do this. Maybe things are going really, really well. It's going so well that people start to say, hey, we would really love to bring your concept to our city. Or, hey, I'd really love to be certified in your method. Are you offering some kind of certification? Or, hey, these products are selling really well. Have you considered also offering these products? Or you're really good at offering this service. Have you also considered offering this service? So you could be rethinking your business model because things are going well, because people like what you're offering and they want more of you. They want more of what your business has to offer. There's other reasons, though, why you might be rethinking your business model. You might be rethinking your business model because you're burned out. Maybe your business model requires a lot of one-to-one. It requires a lot of one-on-one with the customer or one-on-one with the client, and you're just running out of capacity. Maybe you are fully booked out, you are fully scheduled, but you are also fully exhausted, right? And you're realizing, I got to change this business model. This is not sustainable. I need a way to multiply myself, and this business model that I started with is not the business model that I can scale with. So you might be rethinking your business model because you are burned out. So there could be many different reasons you're rethinking your business model. And what it looks like at this point to take that next step and to monetize your intellectual property often looks like licensing or franchising. It's taking your brand and multiplying it through the power of licensing or the power of franchising. And maybe you've heard of trademark licensing, maybe you've heard of franchising, maybe you're even considering it right now, but you don't have a good idea of what that would mean. That's exactly why we're having this talk today. So franchising, you're probably more familiar with. It's when other people who are unrelated can buy into your business and can open their own location. The most visible example of this would be fast food restaurants, right? You see Taco Bell, you see Subway, you see McDonald's. These are all franchises. These are people who have paid usually a pretty significant amount of money to buy a franchise. So they've paid a lot of money. Usually they also have to pay monthly to continue to be part of the franchise. But in exchange, they get a plug and play business. The name's already picked, the logo's already picked, they already have colors. The way it's supposed to look, the way the business has to be, the recipe is already set. It's plug and play. All people have to do is pay their money, plug in, and boom, the business is ready to go. That's a franchise. Another way to multiply your business, another way to create those additional revenue streams is through licensing. And a lot of people get franchising and licensing confused because there is a lot of overlap. And in fact, if you're going to franchise, then by definition, you're also doing a license. So not all licensing is franchising, but all franchising is a trademark license. So that's, I think, why business owners sometimes get confused between the two, especially when they're trying to work out which one makes more sense for their business. But on the licensing side, when it comes to licensing out your trademark, that can look a lot of different ways. It could look like a certification. So this would be pretty common in the fitness, health, and wellness space. It's also very common in the consulting and coaching space. You can go and get certified in a method. You can go and get certified in a process. You can become a certified coach or a certified consultant. Well, that's a trademark license. Someone else is letting you use their logo, use their name and market yourself as certified in whatever it is. So a certification can be a great way to create new revenue streams for your business. And that involves a trademark license, licensing your trademark out to somebody else and letting them use it. A license sometimes can be another location. Maybe it's a location that you partially own, but you're bringing some other people into the business. That could be an example of a license. It's actually different from a franchise. So sometimes a license could be you are still making the products, but you're letting somebody else sell them in their store. You are giving them a right to use your logo. You're giving them materials. You're allowing them to sell your products. That could be an example of a license. So there are many different ways to license a trademark, but the point here is that this second phase is all about rethinking the business model. It's time to add new revenue streams. It's time to add new verticals. It's time to figure out more ways to monetize the trademarks. And making that shift that we talked about in the beginning, realizing that intellectual property is property and I can buy it, sell it, develop it, and lease it is so crucial to strategically thinking about how to monetize trademarks in that second stage of business. Now we're going to move on to the last stage of business. And this is not necessarily chronological, but I would say these are kind of different levels of advancing or becoming more sophisticated as a business owner. And this last stage would be buy, sell, or pass it down. So maybe you're in a position where you're thinking about how to buy other businesses. Maybe you're in a position where you've kind of reached a certain level of being established and it's time to buy out the competition. So you don't really want competitors rising up. And so your response to that is to buy them out. Maybe you're looking to sell the business. It's time to cash out. You've got people knocking on the door because you've got something really great. And maybe you are kind of ready to cash out. Maybe you're ready to start a different kind of business. Maybe you're ready to retire. Maybe you just want a break. There could be a lot of different reasons why you want to sell, but selling could be part of this phase. And then there's also pass it down. So the really powerful thing about trademarks is that trademarks can actually last forever. This makes trademarks different from other types of intellectual property. Patents expire. Copyrights also expire. But trademarks, if they're properly maintained, if the right paperwork is being filed to keep them renewed, trademarks can last forever and be passed down to whoever it might be that you want to inherit after you. Children, heirs, maybe you want to pass it down to a nonprofit or a foundation. There's so many different options. But the really powerful thing about trademarks is they can last forever. So let's talk about that first one, buy. Because maybe you're considering buying a business and you're wondering, well, what does this really have to do with trademarks? Properly vetting the trademarks of a new business is crucial to knowing whether or not that new business is a good investment. And I'll tell you guys a story. I had a client, and this client came to me after they'd already purchased a business. They had seen the business. It looked like it had a great opportunity to expand. It already had a loyal following for the particular product they were already selling, and they had grand ideas for how they were going to give everything a facelift and really be able to build out this brand they had just bought. What they did not know is that before they bought that business, several years before actually, that company had struck a deal with another company because they'd had a trademark fight. And as part of the deal, they had agreed never to expand into other types of products. They had also agreed never to change their logo. And so this newly designed logo that he'd invested in, turned out he couldn't use it because what he didn't know is that the company he bought was weighed down by this really bad agreement that they'd signed several years before. So when you're going to buy a company and you're considering maybe how can you build it out? How can you invest in it? What's the next step? Trademarks are so crucial. Because if they are tied up in a bad deal involving their trademarks, that could mean that you can't expand that company at all. It could mean you can't launch new products. It could mean you can't change the logo. You can't update. You can't modernize. You can't bring it along and modernize it with the times. So trademarking is so crucial. The trademarks for a new company have to be vetted, because if they're weighed down by some bad agreement, then you might find out that the company you bought that was going to help you make lemonade was actually just a lemon. So that's the buying side of things in kind of this more advanced stage of business. Now, trademarks are also crucial when it comes to selling, because when you're trying to sell your business, then now you're the one being vetted. You're the one on the hot seat. You're the one who has to answer questions about, okay, well, did you trademark the business? Did you sign any bad agreements? Did you sign any bad settlements? Are there any things we need to know about that would prevent this company from growing, that would prevent us from launching new products? Did you take the time to trademark? Or does it turn out that you don't actually own the trademark for this business? So when it comes to selling, the shoe's on the other foot. It's on you to make sure that not only have you taken the steps to trademark, but you've also been doing a good job of taking care of those trademarks, keeping them renewed, keeping them maintained, filing all the paperwork that was supposed to be filed. And then last would be pass it down. Like I said, the powerful thing about trademarks is they can last forever if properly renewed and maintained. And so it goes back to making sure that the trademarks have been taken care of, making sure that you have an asset that's appreciating and not depreciating. Because like I said, intellectual property is property. So it's just like a house. If you buy a house, if you take care of it, if you do the regularly scheduled maintenance, if you make sure that the roof is looking good and the foundation is solid, if you do investments to keep the interior updated with the times, that investment is going to appreciate. But if you don't do that scheduled maintenance, if you let things fall apart, if the roof is weak, the foundation is cracked, and you've got cabinets in there from 1950, well, that investment's is probably not going to appreciate. It might even depreciate. And so when it comes to thinking about how we pass things down, we want to make sure that these trademarks for our business, that these are assets that are appreciating, because we want to pass down good assets to whoever we're passing it down to. So that is what I have for you guys. I hope this was helpful for thinking about what does it look like to monetize trademarks at each stage of business. I hope this gave you a better understanding of what intellectual property is and how it works and what the different important categories are. And I hope that as a CEO, as a business owner, as a founder, you are walking away with a better understanding of what this looks like at each stage of business. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Please share this with a friend. If you thought it was helpful, tag me in your stories. Let me know what your main takeaway was, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. The Legal Upgrade Podcast is a Bevel Law production. For more information about the Legal Upgrade, you can follow on Instagram at Bevel Law or find even more information on the website bevellaw.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. See you next time on the Legal Upgrade Podcast.